with a truth you may have felt, but never quite named. Control is not about domination. It is about certainty. It is the mind's attempt to create a map where chaos once lived. When your world lacked consistency, your nervous system adapted. It said, if I can just predict this next thing, I'll feel safe. So you micromanaged your schedule. You walked on eggshells around others. You built rituals out of routines, all in the name of control. But here's the paradox. What you thought would protect you became the very thing that imprisoned you. Control turned into rigidity. Structure became suffocation. And the freedom you sought, it slipped further away. Today, we will not shame your control. We will examine it, gently, precisely, like a craftsman studying blueprints. Because buried beneath that urge is a beautiful desire to feel safe, to feel seen, to feel stable. And there are other ways, gentler ways, to build that stability. Imagine for a moment that your inner world is a home, not one built by trauma, but one you're designing, room by room. The foundation, self-awareness, the walls, boundaries, the windows, perspective, the doors, choice. You don't have to live in the blueprint someone else handed you. You get to renovate. You get to reclaim. This is the psychology of architecture. Not just how buildings are made, but how inner stability is formed. You can still have structure, but one that flexes, that breathes, that honors your humanness. Let us unlearn the fortress and reimagine the sanctuary. Control is not the enemy. It is the invitation to explore the fear beneath it and to replace rigidity with rhythm. In this hour, we'll walk through the architecture of your mind. One wall, one window, one word at a time. Let us now observe the subtler threads, the fine print of your behaviors. Control doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, in the way you correct your tone mid-sentence, in how you over-explain a decision, in that urge to double-check just one more time. These are not failures. They are patterns, micro-patterns, quiet mechanisms that once protected you from shame or surprise or rejection. Perhaps you had to predict moods in childhood, or manage adult emotions too young, or make yourself small so others could stay comfortable. Your nervous system became an analyst, constantly scanning, optimizing, deferring. Now, as we explore today, our aim is not to remove these instincts, but to rewire them. To give your body new signals. You are safe now. You don't have to anticipate everything. You get to be spontaneous. This is neuroplasticity in motion. One gentle reframing at a time. Let us challenge a common myth that certainty equals safety. It's tempting, isn't it? To believe that if you just had all the answers, the schedule, the outcome, the script, you'd feel okay. But certainty is a moving target, and chasing it often leads to anxiety, not peace. True safety, on the other hand, is built inside your body. It lives in breath, in presence, in regulation. Certainty is external. Safety is internal. One can vanish with a phone call. The other is a practice you return to. What if we stopped demanding guarantees and started cultivating steadiness? Today, you can begin small. A pause before reacting. A breath before deciding. A reminder, I can handle what comes. That is safety, and it is far more resilient than certainty ever was. Let us now entertain a revolutionary idea. What if you no longer needed control because you developed trust? Not blind trust in others, but deep, embodied trust in yourself, in your capacity to respond, to adapt, to repair. Control says, I must prevent pain. Trust says, I can move through pain. Control builds walls. Trust opens windows. One is a fortress. The other, a living structure with doors that breathe. Consider this. You don't have to architect alone. The relationships in your life can become co-creators, not just variables. Boundaries help, yes, but so does collaboration. To say, here's what I need. To ask, what helps you feel safe too? You're not surrendering safety, you're upgrading the blueprint from solo survival to shared stability. Rigid structures may feel safe, but they cannot bend. And what cannot bend, breaks. Flexibility, then, is not weakness. It is wisdom. It says, I can shift when needed. I can pause before reacting. I can change my mind without losing my identity. This is the emotional architecture of maturity. Let's reflect. Where have you made rules that no longer serve you? Where has structure become punishment? Today, you have the right to remodel, to declare, I built that rule out of fear. Now I build from compassion. You are not locked into the blueprints of your past. You are the designer now. Let the structure hold you, but not harden you. Let it evolve. Let it breathe. Let us apply logic to something deeply emotional, letting go. Letting go is not forgetting. It is not pretending the past did not occur. It is a recalibration. Imagine a structure that once held meaning, a tower built of memories and expectations. But now that structure leans. Cracks form. It no longer supports the life you're building. Letting go is not demolition. It's engineering. You assess the damage. You salvage what's still strong. And you rebuild with intention. It requires humility. It requires grief, but also immense courage. Letting go is not weakness. It is wisdom in motion, strategic release. And often, it's not just one moment, but a series of permissions to feel, to revise, to move forward. After we strip away what no longer serves, what remains is truth. And sometimes that truth is quiet, unadorned, unimpressive to others. but deeply yours. Control tries to decorate, to make pain palatable, to package complexity into certainty. But healing does not need performance. It needs honesty. So what is left when the need to impress falls away? When you no longer chase applause? When safety is internal, not conditional? That is where the real you lives. And that version does not need fixing, only honoring. Today, we acknowledge that version, not the mask, not the fortress, but the architecture beneath it all. This is the integrity of inner design. What remains is what's real. Let us imagine your emotional landscape as a blueprint, not of walls and doors, but of memories and meanings. Every experience etched a line, some deep like carved stone, others faint like pencil sketches on tracing paper. You inherited some of it, cultural codes, familial scripts, unspoken rules about how to feel, how to speak, how to survive. But here's the truth, a blueprint is not a prison. It's a guide, one you can revise. Today, we begin that revision, with curiosity, with precision, with deep respect for what once was necessary, but no longer serves you. You may find rooms you've avoided entering for years, memories still under construction, patterns that leak through the foundation. That's okay. This is not demolition work. This is renovation. And you, dear architect, have full creative control now. The right to redesign your emotional home is sacred. Not everyone will understand why you changed the layout, why you removed certain doors, or built new ones with locks. They may say, "You've changed," and you have. Because growth, real growth, requires spatial honesty. Where does this pattern still fit? Where does this person still belong? Boundaries are blueprints, and your emotional home needs both entry points and exits. You're allowed to redesign it without guilt. To say, this version of me needs more light, more quiet, more truth. And if someone doesn't respect the new design, that is not your burden. It is their resistance to evolution. You don't owe the past a lifelong lease. You owe your soul a space it can fully inhabit. Let us clear the misconception that emotion is a deviation from logic. Emotion is not a malfunction. It is not a flaw in the code. It is data. It is signal. It is meaning in motion. When you feel something deeply, that is your inner architecture responding. Your structure is not broken, it is adaptive. Perhaps you were taught to suppress, to explain instead of express, to perform calmness while chaos brewed beneath. But the body remembers, and so do your systems. Today, we make room for that truth. Emotion belongs in every equation, in every decision, in every blueprint of healing. You are not less rational for feeling. You are more complete because you are integrating, not fragmenting. That is a sign of profound intelligence and emotional fluency. With logic, we calculate. With emotion, we discern. Discernment is not mere preference. It is the wisdom that arises when head and heart are aligned. It whispers, "This dynamic drains me. This environment nourishes me. This pattern repeats, and I'm ready to revise it." Discernment does not always come quickly. It often arrives after we've repeated a lesson, again and again. But when it does, it is your clearest compass. It says, "You've seen enough. You've felt enough. You know what to do." This is where emotional data becomes inner authority. Today, trust what you sense, even if you can't yet articulate it, even if others don't validate it, even if it's inconvenient. That quiet knowing, that is discernment. Honor it. It has earned its place in your design. Let us consider the principle of balance, not as neutrality, but as stability. The world often pushes us toward extremes, all or nothing, yes or no, success or failure. But equilibrium lives in the middle. It is the quiet strength of the bridge between polarities. You are not required to choose between logic or emotion, action or rest, firmness or softness. You can live in the intersection and in doing so, build a more flexible foundation. Today, we challenge the binary. We make room for the both and. I can set boundaries and stay compassionate. I can speak firmly and still care. I can grieve and grow. That is emotional engineering at its finest. No longer reactive, but responsive, deliberate, and whole. Imagine the self not as an idea, but as a structure. Each choice, each belief, each scar and insight becomes a beam, a wall, a window. Your structural integrity depends not on perfection, but on cohesion. When you act out of alignment, you feel the wobble. When you compromise your values, you feel the cracks. But when you live in congruence, when your actions reflect your core, the structure holds. This is not rigidity. This is resonance. The more you speak truthfully, the stronger your voice becomes. The more you live authentically, the more space you create for others to do the same. Your structure becomes a sanctuary, not just for you, but for every soul who enters your presence. Today, reinforce that foundation, not with performance, but with presence, not with armor, but with honesty. There is value in slowing your thoughts, not to silence them, but to measure them. The measured mind is not emotionless. It is intentional. It does not rush to label, but listens. Not every thought is urgent. Not every emotion is a command. Some are simply echoes, residual frequencies from a past you've already outgrown. In cognitive practice, we call this awareness. In wisdom traditions, we call it discernment. Either way, You are not your first reaction. You are the response you choose after the pause. Today, take that pause. Even for a second, let your breath intervene between trigger and reply. That pause is power. That pause is freedom. That pause is you rewriting your mental architecture. It is possible to think clearly and still be kind. Compassion does not cloud intelligence. It enhances it. It adds depth to your logic, context to your insight, humanity to your analysis. When you apply compassion to thought, you ask better questions, not just, what is wrong, but what has happened here? You see the hurt beneath the habit, the fear beneath the resistance, the longing beneath the anger. This is not naivety. It is wisdom matured by empathy. Compassionate thinking leads to wise boundaries. It's not about excusing behavior, but understanding enough to act with clarity and grace. You are allowed to hold both truth and tenderness, to think with your whole self. Today, do just that. Language shapes perception. What we name, we notice. What we reframe, we release. So much of your inner world has been constructed from the words you've inherited. You're too much. You're too sensitive. You're not enough. But today, we revise that language. You are not too much. You are profound. You are not too sensitive. You are attuned. You are not lacking. You are still forming. This is the power of self-talk, of reclaiming your narrative with precision and dignity. Words build thought structures, and every word you choose with care reinforces the mental home you are designing with intention. So speak to yourself as if you were sacred architecture, because you are. Each phrase, each affirmation, lays brick upon brick in the cathedral of your becoming. Your mind is not a vacuum, it's an ecosystem. A living, breathing landscape shaped by what you consume, who you listen to, what beliefs you water. When negativity becomes the dominant species, resilience shrinks. When shame takes root, hope finds it harder to grow. But you can tend to this garden. You can introduce balance, light, nutrients of truth and gentleness. You are the gardener, and your attention is the sun. Where it lands, growth follows. Today, ask, what thoughts am I feeding? What ideas need pruning? What voices belong outside my gates? This is not abstract work, it is literal mental hygiene. Essential upkeep for a mind that deserves peace. Tend to your ecosystem. It sustains everything else. Let us elevate thought, not as a tool, but as an act of dignity. In a world that rewards speed and noise, your contemplative silence is revolutionary. When you pause to think, to weigh, to wonder, you assert your autonomy. You are not a reaction machine. You are not a trend echo. You are not a mouthpiece for mass opinion. You are a sovereign mind, capable of depth, of nuance, of revision. Every time you choose to think instead of react, to reflect instead of attack, you honor the sacred architecture within. That is not weakness, it is evolved strength. It is the foundation of wisdom in motion. All this reflection, this inner refinement, it leads somewhere. It is not only for your healing, but for the healing of others through you. Your clarity becomes guidance. Your regulation becomes safety. Your compassion becomes contagious. When you step into the world with a well-ordered inner life, you shift the energetic architecture of every space you enter. This is how minds build cultures, how healing ripples into systems, how reflection becomes revolution. You are not just managing your mind, you are preparing it to build, to serve, to restore what chaos has fractured. And you are not alone in this. At 8 a.m., Zara Khan awaits to help you bring your truth into communication, into connection, into community. But first, let this final breath of reflection settle you into self-trust. Because